It's time to chill out and get ready for a mediocre Q&A live stream. If you're old enough, grab yourself your favorite adult beverage, and if you're not, stick with apple juice. Put your feet up and relax. If you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the chat. And now let's cue up the intro music. You got to admit that technology is amazing, right? Like these live streams, I use a software called StreamYard. Some people like using other softwares, but it's really cool because it's all automated these days. Like it's so different from when I started these live streams, I don't know, 2018-ish, something like that. Hello to everybody. But yeah, when I started these live streams, I was just using an OBS software. And while OBS is awesome, like you can do a lot with OBS, for someone like me that's really impatient and doesn't have the patience to really learn everything there is about video software and live streaming and stuff, one of these one-stop softwares like StreamYard, that's what I use, is super easy because like it has the intro music and the clip, like it's automatic. When I hit live, it just boom brings that up. Like so nice. Granted, it costs money and stuff, but for the convenience, it's totally worth it. So hello, welcome to the HVACR videos live stream. Hopefully you guys are all doing well. Let's see. Yeah. Let's see. Pat from Commercial Kitchen Chronicles says he's terrible about using everything StreamYard has to offer. Yeah, you know, I don't do everything, but it sure is nice, man. When I was actually being diligent and uploading these to Libsyn for my podcast stuff, you know, where it pops up on Apple and all that stuff, I haven't done it in like 6 months. But yeah, we would just download them from StreamYard, download the audio, then upload it to Libsyn and then do that. But one of these days I'll get my stuff together and actually treat this videos thing like what it should be. You know, it's funny. I just had and in no way, don't take this as bragging or anything like that. Okay. Don't envy anything that I say because I screw up a lot of stuff and I'm very lazy and whatnot. But I had a major manufacturer that I was on a conference call with because they wanted to, like, honestly, I don't even think they know who I am because they were scheduling a meeting to like potentially work with me kind of a thing, but really they're way too corporate. If it does work out, I'll be completely mind blown because they're so corporate that in the conversation 2 times they mentioned lawyers. And I'm like, yeah, no, yeah, I'm not proper. I don't. And they were like, well, can you get me like reporting software and like show me your analytics? I was like, I can send you screenshots. That's all I'm willing to do. I'm not making reports. I don't have the patience for that stuff. I try not to let these videos and these live streams get out of hand when I say like how much work I have to put into them, right? I treat it like I want to, and I realize that like, you know, this platform could be much bigger if I pushed harder, but like I don't have the patience or the mental capacity to push any harder when it comes to this stuff. Like I try not to let it get out of hand, but I thought it was funny. Like I was talking to this manufacturer, like there was a whole team of people, and it was really awesome to be able to talk to everybody, but I realistically don't see them working with me because I am not politically correct. You know, I don't do things right. I refuse to promote things blindly, like that kind of stuff. So it is what it is. I am my own worst enemy, if you know what I mean. So hello to everybody. What is up? If you guys have questions or comments or things that you would like me to cover during this live stream, do me a favor, no matter what streaming platform you're watching this on, put it all in capital letters and I'll try to get to them. If I miss them, be patient. You can keep reposting it until myself or a moderator tells you to stop. Or you can shoot me an email to hvacrvideos@gmail.com and we'll try to get it on the next stream. You know, but sometimes there's like so many questions going by that it's difficult to get everything. But yeah, so that one guy wants to know how my silicone injected hand is. It's almost 100%. Like there's still a little like soreness in my knuckle. So if you guys didn't see, about 2 videos ago, I did a walk-in freezer door replacement. And towards the end of the video, I mentioned that while I was puncturing the tube of silicone with the little poker thing at the end of the caulking gun, I wasn't paying attention and I pulled it out. And when I went to go jam it in, it actually went into my glove and went between the webbing of my knuckle right here. And then my whole hand went numb. And it was a little bit of a pucker moment that weekend because my hand was numb and swelling all weekend. But I mean, unless there's some delayed reaction, it's been over a week and my hand hasn't turned purple and it hasn't fallen off, and pretty much have all the use back to it. So I guess I got lucky with that one. I was a little worried because I didn't know what kind of contaminants were on the little poker rod and what silicone would do, because there was silicone on it and it went into my hand. But hey, I guess I dodged a bullet on that one. So there you go. So Jason Johnson, thanks, man. I really do appreciate it. You know, it's really awesome because there's some people in here that act as moderators for me, or that they are moderators for me. And it's really awesome that they're here to support. You know, one thing that I really, really appreciate about this community is how everybody, a good majority of the people, are willing to help each other. If you go on to any of the good Facebook groups, you know, there's usually people in there that are willing to help. And that's really cool. It is nice. It is nice to see, because coming up, I didn't have that help. I learned by embarrassment, right? And just not wanting to fail. And it's really awesome to be able to make the videos that I make and to encourage other creators. Like Pat Finley's in here, you know, he does kitchen stuff too, like I do. He does more refrigeration and hot side. And he's, you know, putting content out on his platform, sharing. I think it's really awesome because I know for a fact that when Pat was coming up and when I was coming up, we didn't have anybody out there handing us this information. In fact, I can still remember people gatekeeping their knowledge, basically saying, no, I'm not going to share that because that's what makes me powerful, you know, like that kind of stuff. And I'm not into that. You know, I'm really not. Speaking of gatekeeping, right? We'll talk about that in a little while too with the recent video, but let's get through a couple more things here. So reading through the chat right now, seeing what I'm missing. Hey, if you guys are watching this on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, it's all good. No, it doesn't benefit me either what platform you watch it on. But I will say, if you watch this on YouTube, currently right now, there's 81 people watching the stream on YouTube, and there's probably 20 to 25 in the chat, and there's a whole conversation going. And you know, the cool thing about the chat, at least on YouTube, is that there's a conversation going that like sometimes not even about what I'm talking about. Like people are answering and helping each other in the chat too. So it's a great community. So again, it doesn't benefit me what platform you watch this on either way. But if you want to be part of the community, come on over to YouTube and you'll see the group of people in there. Eduardo, thank you very much for that super chat. that you gave. Thank you very much. That is not necessary, but much appreciated. It does help to support the channel. So thank you so very much, Eduardo. So his question is, will I be at AHR all 3 days? That is the plan. So the plan for me is I fly out this Wednesday. My wife and I are flying out. We are heading to Orlando. We are going to go to the HVAC School Training Symposium. That is Thursday, Friday. And then we will be staying in the Orlando area, doing some other stuff. And then Monday morning through Wednesday, I will be at the AHR Expo. Now, I will be doing booth visits Monday and Tuesday. I've announced, or I haven't announced it yet, but pay attention to my social media. Shoot me a DM or an email. I can send you my schedule, but I'll put it out on social media too. If you want to come meet me, the best time to do so would be Monday or Tuesday, because I will be majority of the time at the Parker Sporland booth, and then spending a little bit of time between Monday and Tuesday at the Refrigeration Technologies booth for an hour, and then also spending an hour over at the Heatcraft Refrigeration booth. And I believe different days for those. So stay tuned. It'll pop up on my social media. So if you want to come by, tell me I'm an idiot, please come on by, shake my hand. We'll try to say hi, maybe take a picture or something like that. It'll be awesome. So definitely stop me. You know, if you guys see me talking to people, don't hesitate, you know, politely just, you know, walk up, say hi. Don't, like, here's the thing. I get tunnel vision and I get focused. Like, I have laser focus. So say, for instance, I'm walking around the show, like I'm typically not paying attention to my surroundings and I'm just walking. So sometimes people will message me and be like, yeah, I saw you, but you looked really busy. And it's like, oh man, I'm at that show to meet people. So stop me. If I'm talking to a manufacturer, come on over, stop me, you know, let's talk. It's cool. You know, just don't be rude about it, but you know, come on up. Don't act like, you know, don't think that you can't stop. I'm there to talk to people. Even if I'm talking to a manufacturer, come on over, you know, say what's up. Okay, let's see. When I'm at the Heatcraft booth, be careful not to sneeze. You'll flatten one of their evaporator coils. Haha, funny. All right. All right. Let's see what else we got going on in here. Who else is going to AHR? Jason Johnson says he's going. So that's awesome, man. You know, I encourage everybody out there. I can't stress this enough. Share knowledge when you can, okay? At your convenience. Don't bend over backwards. Don't go away from family time. But when you have time, share knowledge, right? I mentioned this earlier. You know, we have such a great community of people that are willing to help each other. You know, if you have technical data, anything like that, I highly encourage you, when you're allowed to, because some technical data is not allowed to be shared, but when you're allowed to, share it with people. You know, I try my best when people ask questions to try to guide them to places, but you'd be surprised how much information you could find from a Google search. It's getting pretty crazy these days, the amount of information. You just got to kind of know how to search some things up, and you can find some pretty good information. All right, let's see what else we got going on in the chat. I'm reading through here right now. Have I ever had Fruit Loops marshmallow treats? Can't say that I have, and can't say that I will. So all the way back in, I think it was like May-ish, somewhere in there of this last year, I kind of had a little bit of a health scare and got some really bad blood work numbers from going to the doctor. And mind you, I hadn't been to the doctor for like 7 years. So yeah, I hadn't been to get a physical and like blood work and stuff for like 7 years. I've been because I hurt myself, but I went to the doctor. I got some bad blood work numbers and I had to make some changes. So I actually haven't had, like, for the most part, really any processed sugar for the last however many months that is, since May. I'll still eat natural sugars. And like, for instance, I did kind of have a cheat at Thanksgiving. I had a piece of pie, and I think at Christmas I had a piece of pie because I had made them. And that's kind of like a tradition that I do, is I make a cream pie every year. It's like a family recipe that we pass down. And so anyways, I cheated on that, but like, I haven't had processed sugar for months and months and months. It's been a long time, and I feel good. I'm not as sore anymore. I've lost a crap ton of weight. It's difficult though. I mean, don't get me wrong. Let's just say this: when you stop eating sugar, for the most part, right? I still, you know, of course there's still sugar in some things, but I, you know, attempt as hard as I can to not eat processed sugar. And when you stop that, you start to realize, like, when you go through the grocery store and you're just looking down the aisles, there is entire aisles of just pure sugar, pure sugar, pure sugar. And it's crazy to think that. Like, it's just absolutely nuts. But make sure you guys are taking care of yourself. Don't let yourselves get out of hand like I did, where I wasn't going to the doctor, wasn't checking up on myself, because it sneaks up on you. And the last thing you want nor I want is for myself to get sick and not be there for my family, and vice versa. Same thing for you guys too. So take care of yourself and make sure you guys go get those physicals and check up with the doctors. And trust me, it gets crappier and crappier the older you get. So mentally prepare yourself for the celebrity status I've earned myself. I am not a celebrity whatsoever. It is the most uncomfortable and awkward thing. Anybody that has ever met me at AHR or the iHacky trade show or any of these events, you can probably attest that I look a little awkward when people come up to say hi to me. It's just because I don't understand how to accept, what they have to say. It's just odd to me because to me, I'm just a normal service technician, and I am. I'm just sharing the little bit of knowledge that I have. I'm clearly not the best. There's plenty much better than I out there. But it is a little interesting and different to go and then have people want to come up and say hi to you and stuff. It's interesting, but I'm getting better at it because it's been enough years that I've done these trade shows. So it's kind of cool though, because I'm taking my wife with me. The older I get, the harder it is to leave home. It's a bummer. I'm going to leave them, not taking my entire family with me, but yeah, my wife's going to come this year. So at least she's going to be there and she can kind of see what it's like. And she's going to help me by slinging the camera and, helping with that kind of stuff. So that way I don't have to be asking random people to pick up my phone and take pictures and stuff like that. So it'll be kind of nice, but it'll be cool having her here. Let's see. Reading through the chat right now. Mike B says he lives off caffeine, probably have a fit if he doesn't get it. Yeah, I still have to take caffeine. I still have 2.5 cups of coffee every morning. If you take one of these tumblers or these Yeti cups or whatever, and you measure them out, it's essentially about 2.5 cups of coffee. And it's quite a bit. So check this out. So I was on social media a while back, and a Facebook acquaintance of mine, Toby Overton, had shown a picture of this cup that he had. And this cup right here, I think I showed it on the Overtime show. It has a full electrical schematic on it for an walk-in or a reach-in freezer, basically, with an 8145 defrost clock, evaporator fan wiring, defrost heater wiring, defrost termination wiring. It's etched into the cup. It's just from Amazon. Toby had posted about it. I went on Amazon. They're available in white or this silver color. I think this is the coolest thing because it's a full-on electrical schematic. It even has the starting components for the compressor on it and the wiring diagram. Honestly, this really does kind of look like a true freezer wiring diagram to me, kind of like someone took that and placed it on a cup. But yeah, this is just a electrical schematic coffee cup or something like that. Just Google it on Amazon and you'll find it. I got no affiliation. It's probably got horrible chemicals in it, but it's really cool. I like having the schematic on there. All right, let's see what else we got going on here. Let's see. Jason says his wife's coming along as well too. Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that'll be nice. That'll be really awesome. What are my thoughts on Dallas trading Luka to the Lakers? Here's my thoughts. I don't follow any sports at all, so I know the name of a lot of teams, but I don't really know players per se. I enjoy going to sports games. Like we go to the local AHL hockey game all the time near us. Oh, apparently I have reactions on my thing. You want to see the other reactions? You want to see my laser show? There you go. Isn't that the weirdest thing? I forgot that I had reactions on, so I can't give a thumbs up because it does things. Let me turn reactions off. There we go. Yeah, that's funny. So I've been using my iPhone, the one that I was filming with for a while, but I stopped filming with because it's a pain in the butt. But I've been using my iPhone as a webcam, and it has those reactions when you do certain things. So I thought that was funny. Let's see what else we got going on in here. Yeah, questions in caps for sure. How is the air there since the fires and all? Bet there are a lot of filters to change in California. Suzanne is asking. Yeah, I mean, there is, you know what, in Southern California, it's pretty common that we have poor air quality almost every day. I have a Google smart home, whatever screen thing in my bedroom that I use like as an alarm clock, and it pulls up my cameras and all that crap. And when I wake up in the morning, it always tells you the air quality, and it's always saying unhealthy air quality, unhealthy air quality. It's just bad. We have too much dense population in one area, and it's just, there's too many people here. But as far as the fires go, I mean, you know, the recovery process from all the fires is going to take like 10 years. It's sad how long it's going to take. It's horrible. A lot of people lost their homes. It was just a horrible thing. And yeah, it's been crazy. But lately we've been having good weather. We had a little bit of rain last week. We're expecting to have a little bit of rain this week. So For now, we're doing good, but the air quality is still pretty bad. Yeah, for sure. What causes a compressor to go off on bypass and or get stuck on bypass? Michael Proctor. So what I'd highly suggest you do is if you go to the Google Play Store or the App Store on the Apple devices and search up Copeland, search up compressor manufacturers, search up air conditioning manufacturers, and you'd be surprised the amount of software that's out there, apps and different things for those manufacturers that people don't even know about. Now, one of the more popular ones is the Copeland mobile app, but Copeland actually has a bunch more apps for their compressors. And if you go to those, you can download the AE bulletins, which are basically the application engineering bulletins that Copeland has. You can also do the same thing with a lot of manufacturers. Parker Sporlan has their engineering bulletins, lots of different ones. But if you're looking at Copeland compressors and you want to know about why a Copeland compressor would go off on a bypass, it's actually in the application engineering manuals. If you download the one for ZF Scrolls or whatever, it has all kinds of information about temperature limits. But essentially, the reason why a compressor goes into a bypass mode, typically we're talking about like a pressure bypass, right? It's not something that's supposed to happen on a regular basis. It's a last ditch effort to protect the compressor because it is typically running outside of its operating envelope. If a compressor is running outside of its operating envelope for extended periods of time, it can cause all sorts of problems such as overheat issues, pressure differential issues. And a lot of the times on the newer, more modern Copeland scroll compressors, they will have what we consider internal bypass, but in reality, what's happening is a pressure safety release device is opening up and then dumping gas from one side to the other, causing it to go off on thermal overload. There's a couple different things, but just, you know, typically why a compressor does that is simply because it's operating for extended periods of time outside of its operating envelopes. And again, you guys can do the research, dig it up, and you could find all sorts of information. It's really interesting. I highly encourage you guys, if you can safely do so, if you ever have a failed compressor, cut it open. Cut it open, cut a couple of them open. Once you get doing a few of them, you'll learn where you need to cut them to get the cleanest looks. And then you can kind of analyze them and see the components inside of them that are damaged. You can see the havoc that has been wreaked from moisture in the system, contaminants in the system, different things like that. How do I know what causes a compressor to go bad? Because I've changed them enough that I got curious, that I started cutting them open, started watching other people's videos. Trevor Matthews was a big inspiration to me because he was, taking compressors apart when he used to work at Copeland. And then now he does a great job of sharing the knowledge that he has from working at Copeland to help others learn. So I highly encourage you guys to go search out Trevor Matthews too, because he's got lots of great information. Refrigeration Mentor is his platform, and he does trainings, online trainings, all sorts of stuff. So, all right, let's see what else. What's up, Edward? How you doing today, my friend? Residential AC with the 2025 refrigerant changes. Am I team 454 or R32? Well, if I had my choice, I would be team R32. And the reason why I say that is because if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, the R32 doesn't have any of the PFAS chemicals in it, and the R454, because of R454B is like a major portion of it is R32, but then it has something else added to it. I think it might be 1234YZ or something like that, one of those. Anyways, that has the PFAS chemicals, which are the forever chemicals, which aren't good at all. So if I had my choice, of course, I'd choose a refrigerant that doesn't have the PFAS chemicals in it, or whatever. I don't know if I'm saying that right. But I mean, whatever, just treat it carefully. Don't inhale things. Be cautious working around it. Don't be working in environments where it's saturated with refrigerant, that kind of stuff, because, it's just a bummer. Yeah, Trevor is also a great resource, says Jason, to learn more about compressors. 100%. Trevor's got great content. Yeah, there you go. Jason Johnson says 454, 1234 ZF, and 32. That's right. Yeah, exactly. So, all right. Will there be bathing in PFAS when all refrigerant equipment is 454 and R4? No, I don't know. But here's the thing. You want to know the really cool thing? If you guys are worried, right? If you're worried at all about this changeover to R32 and 454B and the other A2L refrigerants, if you think that's a problem, don't worry, because in the next 10 years, those refrigerants will be gone too, and there'll be some other new refrigerant, okay? All these refrigerants that we're using today, right? Except for at the moment, CO2 and R290 and isobutane, they're all on the chopping block, okay? And we haven't even started fully implementing them, and they're already on the chopping block, okay? They're a temporary transition until they come up with some new magical, miracle, potent, potion, whatever refrigerant we're going to use. Look, here's the thing. If you look behind me, those are pressure temperature charts for refrigerant. And I can count at least 15 different refrigerants on that pressure temperature chart. Some of them still in use, some of them not. You want to know the common thing that they all have? Like, people ask me and they're like, what's the pressures for 410? What's the pressures for 454B? I could care less, because I know what the temperatures need to be. And if you know the temperatures, and you could just look at a pressure temperature chart and you can find out what the pressures are going to be. Okay. So stop focusing on pressures, start focusing on temperatures. Your life will be a lot easier. Okay. And the transitions to new refrigerants is not going to be a big deal. Okay. Plus, once you start looking at a pressure temperature chart, it's a little bit of an easier way to understand what the glide is, because you can visually see the glide, right? You can see the difference in saturation temperatures, and it's a huge thing. So using a pressure temperature chart like behind me on the wall, those things help you tremendously. Now, I'm going to date myself a little bit, but coming up in the trade, for up until like the last probably 8 years, I carried a pressure temperature chart in my pocket every single day. And then I used to carry a notepad in my pocket every single day. And on the back of that notepad was also a pressure temperature chart. Now, I don't really carry PT charts anymore because we have them accessible in our phones. We can access them on the internet. But when you start learning how to use a PT chart and you start learning about saturation temperatures and the correlation between temperatures and pressures, your life gets a lot easier and you stop worrying about the different refrigerants. Have I changed an evaporator on a Chirac Glycol table? You did one last week and it was a PETA. Also, factory couldn't really guide you on how to fill the glycol. Mark Lopez, filling the glycol on the Chirac units is a pain in the butt. What I'd suggest that you do is head over to Lowe's or Home Depot, buy the cheap little transfer pumps that they have that hook into your drill. They have a little plastic transfer pump over at Home Depot. I'm pretty sure they have one at Lowe's too, but it's a little plastic transfer pump. It's got a hose and a little tube on one side, and you hook up your drill to it and you turn it on, and it's just a tiny little thing, and it pumps the glycol, right in through a little hose. You can pull, it comes with all the fittings that you need. That's going to help you a lot to go ahead and add glycol to those Chirac units. Work on those quite a bit. Pretty familiar with them. No, I've not had to change when you say evaporator, or did you mean the actual heat exchanger? Because, I realize semantics, but on the Chirac Glycol units, what they're doing is they have a refrigeration circuit, then they have a flat plate heat exchanger. That's technically your evaporator, right? But it's a heat exchanger. And then on one side of it is refrigerant, on the other side is glycol. And then you have a heat exchanger in the bottom base section where the food's at, and you have glycol running through the cold rail where the food is also at. So you technically don't have any refrigerant to leak out where the food is at. There's just glycol. I've never had to change, the base section glycol heat exchanger, and I've also never had to change a flat plate heat exchanger. Cross my fingers, but I've done a lot of other repairs on those Chirac units. All right, reading through the chat right now. The only reason people care about the actual pressure is mostly for wear and tear reasons. Yeah, and I would also say that, you still need to know and understand what the pressures are and why the correlation to pressures if you're setting pressure controls also. Because when you're setting pressure controls, you do need to know that it's going to cut in at 20 PSI or whatever it may be. So I want to ask you guys in the chat right now, what's your guys' opinion? So on a Copeland compressor, for medium temperature refrigerant, what is the correct procedure to find out how to set the low pressure control? On a Copeland compressor, medium temperature, scroll compressor, what's the correct way to find out what the pressure control should be set at? I'm going to give it a couple seconds for the chat to kind of put some of their answers in the chat right now. There's no wrong answers. I'm very curious what you guys think. I'm going to tell you what my answer is to it here in just a second. I'm going to read through the chat. Out of all the refrigerants I've worked on in my career, what's my favorite? R22, just because it's the most common refrigerant that I've worked on throughout my entire career. $1,200 bottles of Nylog White. Yeah, exactly. All right. Manufacturer specs, friendly neighborhood maintenance guy says. That's a good one. Quest says compression ratio is 4-to-1 still apply with the new compressor. I don't know if that's a question or a comment. Literature, Mario. Okay, so yeah, you lean on the manufacturer's recommendations, says Mike. Exactly. Tom Steger says the Copeland mobile app. Those are all great answers, and that's basically what I was going to say. So what I typically do when I'm trying to figure out how to set a pressure control is I will lean on the manufacturer of the equipment. So if I'm installing a Heatcraft refrigeration unit, I'm going to look at what they recommend the pressure controls be set at, but then I'm going to cross-reference that with the Copeland mobile data, because if you go find the engineering information on each Copeland compressor within the Copeland mobile app, you can look at the operating envelope of the compressor, and it's going to tell you what the lowest pressure control setting should be and what the highest pressure control setting should be for high pressure cutout, right? You also need to factor in outside ambient conditions, indoor ambient conditions, refrigerant type. All those things are going to affect where you set the pressure control. But don't ever forget to look at the compressor manufacturer, because there is some refrigeration manufacturers that will oftentimes set their pressure controls outside of the operating envelope of the compressor manufacturer. So you need to be cautious about that and make sure you're reading the manufacturer's data and the compressor manufacturer's data and using your own brain, okay? Now, for instance, I can tell you that oftentimes I will see on Heatcraft refrigeration condensing units, they will set from the factory the pressure control settings a little bit outside of the operating envelope of Copeland compressors, but they do something to make that something that can still happen, right? And what they do is they will install check valves oftentimes, okay? Because here's what happens on a Copeland compressor, medium temperature walk-in cooler. It's pumping down, it's a pump down system. The suction pressure is getting lower and lower and lower. Let's say you have it set at 4 PSI. All of a sudden, it comes down to 3 PSI. It turns off, but then all of a sudden you hear this sound and your suction pressure goes back up and it stops like at 20 PSI and it just sits there, okay? Internally, that compressor, when it shut down, it actually bled refrigerant by and caused it to kind of like blow off, kind of, right? That's the easiest way that I can say it. But what Heatcraft has done is they started installing check valves similar to what Copeland has said to do, and they put the pressure control on the inside of the check valves, okay? So that way, or I'm sorry, on the outside of the check valves, so that way when the compressor shuts down, and if it does bounce back, right, if it does get too low, the pressure control doesn't see that. So the compressor doesn't cycle on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off. And then oftentimes Heatcraft will have a time delay relay, which is another thing that Copeland recommends installing on their scroll compressors. So that way it's not going to cycle on and off, on and off, on and off. Same thing I see on the HTPG condensing units and other manufacturers' condensing units too. So make sure that you don't just follow the word, you know, specifically what Copeland's saying, because maybe the manufacturer of the equipment has built in some safeties that allows them to operate outside the operating envelopes. Another thing to understand too is that even though Copeland publishes data in their AE bulletins saying that the pressure control settings need to be here, sometimes some of these major manufacturers have gotten approval from Copeland to set outside of those operating envelopes because of the procedures they've done to implement, you know, check valves and time delays and different things like that. So they've been giving permission sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes, to operate that compressor outside of the operating envelope. So it's just best to do your research and ask lots of questions, okay? Let's see what else we got going on in the chat real quick. Has anybody ever seen a low pressure control installed on a Schrader core with no depressor on the flare? Compressor ran for 2 weeks before there was a callback. Yeah, no, I've never seen that, but that sounds like something that could very easily happen if someone doesn't understand that there's not a Schrader depressor. Let's put it this way. If you are using a Johnson or a Penn pressure control, 99% of the time, they do not have Schrader depressors in those pressure controls. If you're using a Ronco pressure control, I'd say, in my opinion, 80% of the time, they do have a Schrader depressor in that pressure control. And then Danfoss, I don't think they typically put Schrader depressors in their pressure controls, but I can't remember. So just keep that in mind when you're setting your pressure controls and setting them up. Make sure that, you know, there is something depressing the Schrader in there, because on a low pressure control, I can see a system shutting down right away. But on a high pressure control, if it doesn't have a Schrader depressor, you're not going to know until the compressor dies and you change it, right? If you even catch it. So have I ever worked on a semi-hermetic compressor? Oh, yeah. The beginning part of my career was almost all semi-hermetic compressors. So let's see. On Refrigeration Insight says he called Heatcraft tech support and they said medium temp on the check valve is on the discharge line, and the freezers, the check valve should be on the suction line. Yeah, well, the most Copeland, if it has a Copeland compressor in it, most of them actually have a check valve built into the discharge of the compressor. I don't know what happened to the video right now. What the heck happened here? The video just went blah. Apple products are great, aren't they? Let's see if we can turn the camera off for a sec and see if we can get it to come back. What the heck is that about? I don't know why it's all blurry. That was really random. Let me turn this. I don't know. I don't know how to get the camera to start working. Here I was praising my iPhone camera, and then all of a sudden it stopped working. Bear with me just 1 second here. Yeah, that's really odd. Yeah, we lost camera footage here, but I'm going to keep talking right now. So let's just hang in there. Let me see if I can get this camera to turn back on. Yeah. Okay, so we're just going to talk without a camera right now, and you guys are just going to see this because, yep, there we go. First time I've had that problem happen, so gotta love that. Blinded by the lasers, 100%. Nope, it wasn't your vision. Camera just took a dive for a minute. Don't know what that's about. Yep, still blurry. So I'm just going to leave it on this right now. So something I wanted to say, you guys can listen to this for the moment. If you guys haven't already, right? Think about this. If you guys have an iPhone, something that I did the other day, and I've done it 2 times now, and this is a really, really cool tip. If you have an iPhone, when you are calling tech support, turn on call recording. Okay. Of course, you need to let the person know that you're recording the call. Okay. But if you turn on call recording, you can save that recording for yourself, for your archive footage. So I recently called tech support, and my iPhone has call recording. And so what I did was actually recorded the call because I was able to share that call. I can share the recording with my other technicians, so that way they have some of that too. So definitely a good thing to consider if you guys didn't already know that you can do that with iPhones. It's really cool. If I join the witness protection program, I really shouldn't stream. That's 100% true. Yeah, 100% true. For those that are watching right now, for some reason the camera is wonky right now, so yeah, I'm running without a camera because I don't know why it's being a pain in the butt. All right, let's see what else we got going on in the chat right now. Okay, I'm going to get to a couple questions. So how old do you have to be a service technician? Someone asked me in the YouTube comments. Typically 18 years old is pretty much the typical age to be an actual HVAC service technician. Sometimes it's older. I had to pay a premium to bring someone on at my company that's 18 years old because my insurance wanted him to be, I think, 25 or something like that. So we ended up having to pay a higher premium for him to work for us. Oh, that's really cool. Thank you. A gentleman just said that he used my code at TrueTech Tools. So yeah, if you guys are interested in purchasing any tools, if you go to TrueTechTools.com, I have an affiliate program set up with them. What an affiliate program is that I have an affiliate code, big picture, one word. If you put in that code at checkout, you get a discount on your entire order typically. There's a few things it doesn't apply to, but not only do you get a discount, I get a small commission. So it's a great way for you to help support the channel. Let's see what else. Yes, very cool. Okay, a couple more things. Okay, so I had a video this last week, train spaceship that had no heat. I don't know what. It's driving me nuts that the camera's not working. That is so annoying. What the heck is going on here? Let me try something. Let's try one more time, see if this thing starts working. And negative. Still no cam. That is very, very annoying. That's funny. I've never had this problem before. And then all of a sudden, it's not working. Random. Okay, well, we're just going to keep on going. Let's see. Okay, so I had a train unit that had no heat, and it had a failed inverter board for the draft motor. Okay. And so that was interesting to see. I didn't realize that was a variable capacity system for the heating too. It has a variable gas valve, and it has a variable inducer motor or draft motor. So I did a change out on it, and I did have some things to say, right? First and foremost, I'm kind of frustrated because, and I get it. I understand what they're trying to do, but I don't like it when manufacturers gatekeep information, when they put it behind walls that they don't generally let the general public have access to. And, you know, while I really do like Trane's products, right? And what I mean by their products, they have decent quality, at least on the light commercial package units. It really is decent quality on the equipment, but the controls and the sequence of operation is a little bit difficult for someone like me because I'm not super familiar working on them. Luckily, I have a support system of friends that I can lean on, acquaintances, colleagues, you know, and I have that network, right? But not not everybody has that. So it's kind of a bummer that it's so difficult to get some of their information. It is what it is. But someone had asked me in that video, I had a failed inverter board for the inducer motor, and someone said, well, why didn't I just bypass the inducer motor or the inverter board and run three-phase power to the inducer motor? Because it's not really set up for that. Plus, on top of that, I mean, I guess I could have done it just to start it to see if it would work, but I can't remember what the actual voltage of the motor was. Yeah, it was 208 three-phase, actually. And it was AC voltage. But you got to be careful when you're bypassing inverters because you don't know what kind of motors they are. You know, you don't want to run into a weird situation where it's DC volts or something like that. And, you know, you don't want to bypass things if you don't know what you're doing. But next, if you think about it, on that inverter, it has a draft motor, inducer motor, that it varies, right? So as the gas valve opens on the system, the inducer motor is going to speed up or slow down. And I believe, if I remember right, reading through the manuals, it's based on the discharge temperature or something like that. But if I was to bypass that motor and leave it running bypassed, it would only be running at 60 hertz. At full speed on that unit, when I changed the inverter and put in the drive and got it up and running, when it went on high fire, that inverter ramped that inducer motor up to 160 hertz. Okay. That's much faster. That's more than double this. Well, that's 160 hertz, right? That's really fast. So running it at 60 hertz is not necessarily going to work correctly. Okay. So, you know, there's times that I will bypass things. There's times that I will bypass a motor, run it without a drive for a short period of time or something like that. But as much as possible, I try to go back to the OEM, because if I do start bypassing everything in that AC, then what does that do for the next guy that comes in and tries to troubleshoot it and doesn't know what I did? It just makes it even more difficult. Okay. So yeah, it's expensive. Yeah, it's silly how much the customer has to pay to fix their equipment because they're having to use OEM parts and stuff. But I mean, it is what it is. You know, that's what I do. I try not to let things get, I try not to re-engineer things if I don't have to, basically. Okay. So, all right, let's see what else we got going on in here. What am I missing? Just call Jason instead of Trane tech support. You know, it is awesome having some cool friends for sure. So, close all other apps on the phone. Yeah. The problem is that I have to move my desk. Hold on just one second. I'm going to try one more thing. Bear with me. Insert hold music for just a moment. And I fixed it. Don't know how I fixed it, but yeah, that was interesting. Don't know what happened. Let's see if it happens again. Now everything's a little out of focus, but here we are. We had a brief little interruption, but it is what it is. Okay. Let me see what else we got going on in the chat. What am I missing? Oh, yeah. See, there we go. Jason's saying the same thing that I said. If you ran it bypass, then it would only be operating at 50% capacity at 60 hertz. The unit only work in a small operating envelope. That's right. And then if we ran that inducer motor bypass with just 60 hertz, you would go off on, more than likely, you would go off on high limit. You would have all sorts of problems because then the heat exchanger would be getting too hot. You'd cause unnecessary wear and tear on the unit because there's no way to easily shut down the variable capacity that I know of for the gas valve. So yeah, it's just, don't try to re-engineer something that's over-engineered because you're just going to get lost. So, That's funny. Mike B says it's back. Holy crap. It was better not showing my face. Yeah, there you go. All right. A couple more things I want to get to. So looking for troubleshooting. Oh, this is a great question. So a gentleman is looking for troubleshooting tips, specifically where to start diagnosing on something they don't completely understand. So this is a slippery slope right here. So how do you work on something that you don't really understand or know completely how to work on? First and foremost, you need to be somewhat knowledgeable in what you're doing. You need to have a basic understanding. So for instance, that train unit, I'm not super well versed in working on those train units because I don't work on train a lot. Okay. So why do I still continue to work on it? Because I can use some deductive reasoning and some basic troubleshooting skills and kind of work my way through problems. What I'm typically going to do in a situation like that is I'm going to let the customer know, hey, you know what? This equipment, like I've made it very well known to my specific customer that, you know, the locations that they have train equipment on, especially this location that has these variable capacity units that I don't get very much support from the manufacturer on, you know, this was a bad decision and it's going to lead to higher troubleshooting costs. So as long as the customer knows that up front, they still want me working on their stuff, then I'm billing for 100% of my time and we're going for it. But I'm going to use some deductive reasoning. I'm going to use some basic troubleshooting knowledge, right? Looking at things, observing, and just paying attention. But I caution people. The reason why I said slippery slope is because I really don't want people working on things that they have no business working on. If I had to get into the controls on this unit, I would not be qualified to get into the control system and start changing things, right? Because yeah, I could really screw up their entire system by not knowing what I'm doing. So you have to know when to stop. You have to know when it's like, hey, this is out of my comfort zone. I don't feel comfortable doing this. So for instance, on those same train units that I just made a video replacing that inverter on, we have still on one of them on their roof, train themselves is having a hard time fixing a problem where they keep getting high temperature limits on the inverter for one of the compressors. And the manufacturer has come in. They have changed the compressor. They have changed the inverter for it. They have changed the TXV, I think. Actually, no, they just came out and cleaned the TXV because after they worked on it, all of a sudden the TXV stopped working and it was plugged up apparently. That's a whole nother thing. But I mean, there's a time when I'm going to get train involved. When I have a feeling like, hey, this is going to get really expensive and I'm really just throwing shit at the wall, then I got them involved. And I said, hey, you know what? Let them throw shit at the wall because it's their unit and it's not mine. And I'd rather them look bad than me look bad. So, you know, it is what it is. So I know when it's too much for me and I back off. Hey, those that are watching this right now, if you guys don't already know, if you are going, I'm going to be at the HVAC School Training Symposium this Thursday and Friday. And then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week, I'm going to be at the AHR Expo. I'm going to be announcing on all my social media platforms where I'm going to be at, the different times. Monday and Tuesday, I'm going to be doing booth meetups where I'll be at certain booths and you guys can come by, stop and say hi, take a picture, tell me how much you hate my videos, that kind of stuff. I'm looking forward to it. So if you guys are going to the AHR Expo or the HVAC School Training Symposium, definitely stop me. If I look like I'm busy, stop me. Okay. If I'm talking to a manufacturer, that's even better. Stop me. Okay. It's awesome when people come up to me when I'm talking to manufacturers because it's just a really good thing. Okay. So come on up and stop me. All right. Let's see what else we got going on in here. The cooling fan and heat sink on those VFDs are air cooled. Actually, Jason Johnson, we should talk some more because they're not air cooled. On the compressors, they're refrigerant cooled. It's not a VFD traditional one. It's actually an inverter that's refrigerant cooled, and then it has a microboard inside the main control panel. I have been told by people at Train that they are nothing but problems on these compressors. And anytime that it's really high temps, they lose a lot of the systems going off on high temperature failure and all kinds of issues because of overheat stuff. So anyways, but that's a whole conversation for another day, but it's not a traditional VFD that has a cooling fan. Doesn't work like that. It's got a refrigerant line coming over from the evaporator. There's 1/4-inch lines running over to the inverter for each stage or for the stages. And yeah, it's a whole thing. So, okay. Reading through here, they also have thermistors that can go bad in them. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff in there. All right, let me read through the chat. Okay, so these units that have all this high efficiency, fancy stuff, are they actually worth it to the customer in the long run? You know, that's up to the customer. Okay, every customer buys their equipment with certain things in mind. If they buy something super high efficiency, you do have to think about a return on investment. A good majority of the time, if you're buying something that's high efficiency to get a return on investment, you're probably going about it the wrong way. All right. You should be buying something that's high efficiency to get the most efficiency out of it, to get better comfort out of it, or better operation out of it. I wouldn't necessarily advise people to buy high efficiency equipment to save money, because in the long run, in reality, you're probably not going to save money. Okay. So for instance, I replaced the air conditioner in my house about a year and a half ago, something like that. And I went with a stupid expensive, ridiculously over the top Carrier Infinity system that's variable capacity, everything, modulating it's ridiculously dumb, right? With all the stuff that it does. But in general, a customer could not afford to pay for the install that I did on my house. With the way that I ran the refrigeration lines, the communication lines, the duct work, all this different stuff, it would have been $40,000-$50,000 system, right? It didn't cost me that much because I paid cost and then spent a summer doing the labor over the summer doing the install. But would I necessarily sell that system to a customer? I don't know, because I'm not going to sell it on the fact that they're going to save money. No, no way. Like, a customer needs to want high efficiency equipment. They want to have all the bells and whistles. That's the reason to buy something like that. If you're buying it to save them money, don't tell them that you're going to save them money, because the first time the thing breaks and the cost to replace the part that is not under warranty anymore, they're going to realize that they lost all that money saving with the first part that they have to replace. Okay. So I don't know that I would say that this equipment's worth all these fancy bells and whistles. Why is the equipment coming with all these fancy bells and whistles? Because, you know, regulations are forcing the hands of the manufacturers to produce higher efficiency equipment that, you know, uses less energy but gives more comfort, basically, right? But most technicians, at least knowledgeable service technicians that work on residential or commercial, know that for the most part, the high efficiency stuff is not necessarily a money saver. It's more or less an energy saver, but the money spent on replacement parts usually exceeds the savings from the energy savings, in my personal opinions. Okay. All right. Now for me, so then why, if I know all that, why did I go with a high efficiency system? For the video footage. I mean, you know, like, why not? And also at the same time, if I have to buy, you know, parts, it's more great video footage. I get to film it. Then on top of that, I'm paying cost. Okay. So my cost is still ridiculously expensive because I wasn't a Carrier dealer. So I still had to pay an arm and a leg and 3 feet for my system, but I could. So I did. Right. I mean, there's really no other reason other than I wanted cool video footage. So, all right, let's see what else we got going on in the chat. All right. Trane wants their own techs to work on their equipment. That's why they don't give tech data so easily. I don't know if that's completely true. I'm sure there's some truth in that, but I don't know the exact reason why they gatekeep some of their information. Let's be fair. I was on the phone with Linux the other day, had a great technical support conversation with Linux, got through pretty quick, but I have some advantages because I'm working on national accounts, meaning that they have specialized technical support departments for their national accounts. So we typically have faster hold times and things like that. Okay. But when I was talking to tech support, he was sharing some information with them. And I said, hey, where are you getting that information? Can you send me that PDF? And he goes, no, this is company only information. I'm allowed to give it to you over the phone, but I'm not allowed to send it to you because the information in this manual that I'm reading can really screw up the equipment if you do something wrong, and they don't want to share that. I get it. Okay. Like, I don't like it, but I understand why they want to gatekeep some information, because maybe that information can cause someone to really screw something up. Okay. It is what it is. I don't want to bash just on Trane or Linux or Carrier or all those different ones. One thing I'm going to say right now is that I tend to be frustrated with the equipment I don't understand the most. I don't understand Trane equipment very well, okay? Because I haven't invested the time to really research and dig into the equipment besides just reading a manual. In a perfect world, I'd go out and get some training from Trane, go out to the factory, learn some different things. It costs a lot of money to get that training. but it would make me a better tech for sure. And I would be more comfortable working on their equipment. So it's not necessarily that they make bad products. I genuinely think that Trane has a good product with their light commercial equipment. I think the build quality is decent and it's just good overall equipment. I just wish that it was easier to work on for service techs that are not Trane service techs. That's all. So, all right. It could have the intellectual property in the document. That's 100% true. Yeah, exactly. Dwayne says he has a question about a code EH30 on a Linux inverter. Honestly, I don't know what that code is, nor is that something I can really help you with on the stream. I would highly suggest that you go to Linux's website. They have a lot of great information, or just call tech support. Really, I'd strongly suggest you do that. They usually have some good information. And like I said, when you guys start calling tech support and you got iPhones, use the call recording feature. Record the call, save it into your phone. Just like we have a PDF, now you've got an audio call that you can go back and listen to and hear them tell you how to set. And so I was working on a Linux unit the other day, called tech support, and he had to help me go through the VFD to reset some parameters. I have all that recorded. So, you know, he didn't want to send me the PDF, but I have the full recording of the conversation. If I ever run into that problem, I just default on that recording, go back into there, listen to it, set the parameters where they need to be set. Basically, on my specific Linux unit, what was happening was it was going off on an over torque setting from the factory. And what had happened was they had a parameter set wrong at the factory, and it was set to a 0-second delay before it went off on an over torque fault. So we set it to a 20-second delay. So now it has a 20-second window before it decides that it's over torquing the drive and shutting it down, or over torquing the motor and shutting down the drive. So Linux just walked me through resetting it. I recorded the call. I have a recording of it. Now, I'm not going to share that with the public because you can't do that kind of stuff, but I highly encourage you guys to do that. All right. There you go. So Edward P says Samsung Ultra has the ability to record phone calls too. Yeah, that's really, see, there you go. We've got it out everywhere. This is awesome. Now that we say that, don't share this. I probably shouldn't have said this on a live forum, because now they're probably going to like not let you record calls, and they're not going to give that information out anymore, you know? So, all right. Okay. Reading through a couple more things. When I had the door replacement, someone had asked me, okay, they're from another country. This gentleman's from Sweden. And he said, hey, he's from Sweden. And he's saying that there, the customers don't order their own parts, because I mentioned that in the video that my customer ordered their own door and I just installed it. You know what? It's not completely common here. If you're working for big national account chain restaurants, it's kind of common. You have to have a little compromise. So they'll provide their own equipment, they'll provide their own doors, but I provide all the parts, I provide the labor, I provide the miscellaneous equipment if I'm doing an install for them. And it's just one of the things, it's a give and take. Like, yeah, I don't make profits on the equipment. I'm not selling them equipment, but I'm getting a lot of service work. So it's just something that I choose to accept. Some companies do it, some companies don't. To each their own, you know? All right. Trane should make an OJ machine for restaurants. Oh, yeah. All right, cool. So that's it on that one. All right, let's go to the chat and see what we got going on in the chat. I'll probably end this a little bit early today, but I'm going to go through the chat and see if there's a few questions. So, okay, reading through here. A Trane ice machine, no thank you. Everybody's dogging on Trane now. Look, every manufacturer has problems. I could talk negatively on Linux, Carrier, every manufacturer. I could tell you what I don't like about them. Okay, so each one, you know, there's some guys in the chat right now that love Trane equipment because they're not as uncomfortable working on it as I am. So I'm not saying it's bad equipment. I just don't like the fact that it's hard to get the knowledge you need to be able to work on it comfortably. That's all. So I still think they do a pretty decent job at their build quality. So some people probably say I'm an idiot for saying that too. So Medic Herb says same thing for the chain stores. Yeah, 100%. So most new Trane package units are tandem. Yeah, Carrier's going tandem too. They're doing it on their compressors. They're putting tandem for one stage and doing multi-stage. So I think they can do 3-stage on their units now with just 3 compressors. But yeah, anyways, it's a whole thing. And Trane's doing that too. They do the tandems. It's just a way that they can get away with things. All right, reading through here. What's an OJ machine? An orange juice machine, Jordan. All right, cool. Reading through here, seeing if I missed anything. If there's anything that I missed, you guys put it in the chat. I'm just reading through, looking for capitalized stuff that I could have missed before we end this. So as soon as this stream's over, I got to finish a video really quick. And then I'm going to be done. I'm going to be turning off my computer and packing it up. My wife and I are leaving super early Wednesday morning, flying out to Orlando, and hoping that my company, the refrigeration company, doesn't burn down while I'm gone. So it is what it is. I'm going. All right, cool. I am going to wrap this up. So I'm going to put up the outro music. I really do appreciate you coming out here. Thank you so very much. If you guys have questions or comments that you want me to cover, shoot me an email to hvacrvideos@gmail.com. Remember, truetech-tools.com. My affiliate code is big picture one word. Get an 8% or get a discount at checkout. There's a few things it doesn't apply to, then I get a small commission. Also, go to my website, hvacrvideos.com, where we have merchandise available, hats and stuff. I just placed a big order for the hats because I was trying to get ahead of the price increases so that way I can keep my prices as low as possible. Prices are going up on everything, but I think I got this order in to keep the prices down a little bit lower for a little bit longer. When it comes to my merchandise, the hats and things like that, I try not to mark them up too much. I think I make like $5-6 a hat. I think I make $1 like on stickers, and like I try not to step on the prices too much so that way I can keep it as low cost as possible. So thank you so very much. I'm going to cue up the outro music. I really do appreciate you, and we will definitely catch you guys on the next one.